Hey guys, welcome to the Together for Good podcast, your guide into the real and inspired marriage and life adventure that you never knew was possible. I'm Meredith Osterhaus, the daughter of your hosts, Dan and Melodie Griffin. Mom and Dad's teaching, stories, and experiences with lots of laughing mixed in will move you to make your marriage last, all while making a difference in the world around you. Are you ready? Here we go!
Hey everyone, welcome to Together for Good podcast. We're thrilled to have you with us. I'm Dan.
I'm Melodie.
Yeah, and we have, you can see we're in a different setting. It has been an absolutely crazy weekend. And so we knew we needed to record tonight, and we're in the middle of a series on the personalities in marriage, and we have one more left. It's how the thinker engages with everybody. We're going to take a quick break.
Detour.
Breaking news. We're going to take a quick break from that because we just really felt like we needed to enter into some of what was going on in our heart and our mind over the weekend. So we entitled this podcast Preparing for the Unexpected.
I love that.
Yeah, give us some of the backstory.
I will. So we interrupt this regularly scheduled life to be surprised by the unexpected. And no, we're not expecting. Don't get any wrong ideas. But there are always things that are just going to take you by surprise. And how are you going to react to them? And this weekend was absolutely no exception. We had already had all the plates spinning. Savannah had been home from college. It was so good to have her home for Thanksgiving. And one of us needed to get her back over to Charleston. We were planning for a friend's birthday party. We'd been fostering a Newfoundland dog for almost a year.
That's right.
And of course, on Saturday was the day that the dog needed to be transferred. It was all converging at once. Right. And we were already like, okay, how are we going to get it all done? Who's going to be where? Who's going to? And I was getting ready to rush out the door to do something in my phone.
Add to that, next week becomes absolutely off the chain crazy for Melodie because it's production week with the Christmas production at church and
Super Bowl.
Everything that goes with that. So
right. It's awesome, but it's an every night of the week thing, and so that was already impending. So Saturday was a big old busy day, and my phone rang, and there were tears on the other end. It was a frantic call from someone who means a lot to us. In fact, she's the mom of the Littles. You may have heard us talk about the Littles. We cared for a little boy and a little girl for a little while. They were in our home. They called me Lolly. They still do. Called him Pops. And so, we're Lollipop. How cute is that? Anyway, I digress. So I get this frantic call from the mama, and she had an amazing, awful, terrible emergency, hospital worthy. And so I raced up to urgent care to be there with her, and came home with the kids, with the Littles, in the middle of everything where we were already stretched too thin.
Right.
And so that leads to the thoughts that we have a lot for this podcast. And that is, ministry is never convenient. No. Call it ministry, call it giving, call it loving, call it sacrifice, is never convenient. And I can just tell you when these opportunities are mostly going to arise. They're going to arise when you're already spinning all the plates. Rarely will there ever be a time where you have 2 or 3 hours to kill and you're like, okay, God, I'm ready. Send me some ministry. It's just not going to happen that way. It's going to happen when you're already like, how am I going to get it done? And you have a choice. How are you going to respond?
Let's define ministry. What does that mean? I think that would be
right. That's why I said you could say giving. You could say sacrifice. I like to say loving. When you're going to love on people, when you're going to meet their needs. A lot of times it's going to be physical needs that you're meeting. A lot of times it's going to be emotional needs, and sometimes in that order. You meet their physical needs first.
Right.
What is that theory called? You know all about it. The order of needs.
Maslow's hierarchy.
See, I told you you'd know the answer.
I believe it's true.
Yeah, you meet their physical needs first. You meet those that we love. We do it with our family. We do it with our friends.
Yeah.
Folks that we love, so we meet their needs, and then a lot of times it's going to be emotional needs that we're meeting. And you say
the thing with going there, because ministry sounds like such a high-minded concept. It's
almost like you have to wear a collar.
It's almost hyper spiritual, which anytime I hear that, it makes me want to challenge those types of words, because the fact of the matter is, ministry is just when you become the hands and feet of Jesus. Simple as that. It may be walking out from the grocery store and a 90-year-old veteran is ringing the Salvation Army kettlebell, and you just spend a few moments to hear his story. That is being the hands and feet of Jesus.
And what he is doing,
yes,
in his age. And people would say, "Oh, well, I can't do that. I'm too old."
And it's what is God doing? What is Jesus doing and inviting us into? And we got the invitation with a phone call, and so we had to make a decision. And there were some things, I think, that were already in place that made it so the decision was easier to make. And so that's the reason why we've titled this "Preparing for the Unexpected." And it's a perfect segue into Advent. This being the first Sunday of Advent. This podcast will drop tomorrow morning.
Right, exactly.
So this podcast will drop tomorrow morning. So that's part of what's coloring some of this as well. So what does that look like? Mm-hmm. How do you prepare yourself for unexpected? So,
and how are we different because of the Advent?
Right. There are 2 points that I think resonate for Melodie and I on this. One is be a yes person, be yes people. I can play the no card really quick. And I know some people that will say, "Hey, listen, you say no first because then you can come back and say yes. But if you say yes, you're stuck." Well, you know what? Sometimes you need to be stuck. There's some things you need to be stuck to.
I'm stuck with you.
Oh,
I love it.
Lucky me. But be a yes person. When you sense, here's a way that you can know if this is something you believe that God's inviting you into. When you hear that voice, and by the way, what makes this so difficult, that voice usually sounds like your own voice, right? But you hear that voice, and it's inviting you to do something that is going to be uncomfortable, that's going to challenge you, that's going to ask something of you. That is probably Jesus inviting you into this. And so be a yes person and say yes and move into it, knowing that, hey, listen, what's the worst case scenario here? You say yes and you overextend yourself. Well, I don't think we're, co-signing loans for people. I'm not suggesting that kind of thing. I'm just saying where we become the hands and feet of Jesus, and we are meeting people's needs right where they are. So be a yes person.
I like that a lot. I agree.
Second.
The second thing is, it is not sacrifice. Let me write this down. It is not sacrifice until it costs us something. I was sharing with Dan earlier tonight that as I look back on the highlight reel of some of my favorite moments in our marriage, in our relationship, in our family, it started with something that scared me to death, or it started with something that I knew was going to cost me. And I can remember being in that point of decision, like, do I really want to do this? Anytime we fostered, and we were the night before they were coming or the hour before they were coming, I hate heights. And I literally felt like when you'd been going up that roller coaster and you get to the very top,
click, click, click,
and you're getting ready to drop. And you do drop, but it is a ride. You get so much more than you give. Doesn't mean that it's easy. In fact, remember what I just said. It's not sacrifice until it costs us something. It will cost.
Well, when you say you get more than you give, let's expound on that a little bit.
Okay. And sometimes you may get less than you give. Sometimes you may get the same you give. But when I give, I'm going to talk about me because that's the experience I know. When I give sacrificially, I'm not going into it thinking, oh, I hope I get something good out of this. But on the back end of it, or at certain points in it, I find myself feeling fulfilled in a way that I wouldn't feel otherwise. So I've been the hands and feet of Jesus, but it's as though somebody was the hands and feet of Jesus to me as I've done it. It's kind of hard to explain.
I think it's a natural filling that happens. The power of the Holy Spirit that lives out through us, and as we are literally we're walking into the identity to which God has called us, we're we're being and we're doing something that's so much bigger than we are.
And
I think that's what you're speaking to when you speak of that I'm getting more than I'm giving. Because when I begin to live out that supernatural, spirit-filled life, and again, I'm not trying to throw those out in a cliche way. Living a spirit-filled life is just living a normal Christian life. It's when I live a life that's the hands and feet of Jesus. One of my favorite passages, and I think it's actually a great passage for Advent and for this season. It's Philippians chapter 2, and most people don't think of this as a Christmas passage.
I never did till you said it.
But here's the words of Paul as he speaks to our posture and to our attitude. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others. Have this mind, a posture of attitude. Many of the other translations actually say attitude. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but he emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. So when we listen, there is nothing that could have been more unexpected in human history than the way God invaded Earth through a cradle. through some cattle stall, right? I mean, what an amazing undercover job that was.
It's good,
right? All of that was possible because of a posture and a mindset that Jesus embraced. He emptied himself and took on the form of a servant. There is no way for you to be prepared for the unexpected when you're in a position of arrogance, of thinking that your time, your treasure is more important than someone else's. When I begin to objectify other people, I can then justify my, frankly, selfishness. So here's the challenge that I'll throw out to you as we close our time today. What is it that God is inviting you into that is really pretty big, radical for you? And by the way, a big radical thing for you might just be seeing that coworker and entering into their world in a way that you've never done before. Your neighbor. I mean, how many of us really know the neighbors that even live around us in our neighborhoods? What is it that God's inviting you into to step out of your comfort and to step into being the hands and feet of Jesus to those around you? When you take that mindset, the same one that Paul talks about in Philippians 2, that Jesus manifests for us, you will be prepared for the unexpected.
Absolutely. And you'll never be the same. Some of my favorite memories are when we collapse in the bed at night. We're like, what are we doing? Yeah. And we collapse and we both just go, this is good. Life is good.
I'll even throw this little tidbit into that as well. That choice has been a major game changer when it comes to our relationship, right?
Absolutely.
So as I become more and more humble, emptied of myself, like Paul's talking about, I'm a better husband. I'm a better dad. I'm a better neighbor. I'm a better coworker, employee, friend. All of those things are enriched. They're enhanced. And life is rich and full and meaningful. So, there's a direct tie to your marriage based upon the things that we're talking about here this evening. So,
being found in human form, Christ humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. He took on the form of a servant, and he was born in the likeness of men. And that's what we want to do. Yeah. We want to be like him.
Yeah. So come thou long expected Jesus, right?
Happy Advent.
Yeah. So listen, thanks for your time tonight. We're glad to have you with us. Spread the word. Let people know about Together for Good podcast. It's always an encouragement to us when people let us know that they were encouraged or challenged, or
You bet.
and they passed the word along.
You bet. And spend some time thinking about these nuggets of truth and asking God, what is it that I'm not seeing that's right in front of me that you want me to say yes to? Maybe it's inconvenient, and maybe it'll change your life.
You bet.
Better.
You bet.
Thanks for being with us tonight for Together for Good.
So this week's show may be over, but the work has just begun. Be sure to check out the great resources and references mentioned in today's show in the show notes at wearetogetherforgood.com/podcast. It is also super easy to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Hey, if this podcast has been an encouragement to you in your marriage and life journey, please let the people in your world know. Help us spread the word about the Together for Good adventure by following us on our Facebook and Instagram pages. This would go a long way to help get the word out. Don't forget to check out our website, wearetogetherforgood.com, for free resources, archived podcast episodes, and other ways you can experience a life and marriage that is together for good.